Hey everyone! Welcome to the channel, I'm Dr. Richard Jones. Today we're diving into a delicious topic. Is there such a thing as a healthier chocolate? Between milk chocolate, dark chocolate, and white chocolate, can one actually be better for your health? Let me know in the comments which one is your favorite. Personally, I have mine, but we'll get to that. So, does dark chocolate really live up to its healthy reputation because of its higher cocoa content? Is there a type of chocolate that's actually light enough to enjoy every day? Can we even call white chocolate real chocolate, or is it just sugar and fat pretending to be something it's not? Get ready, because we're about to break down what's actually inside each type of chocolate and find out which one might be best or least bad for your health. Be honest, do you always save a little chocolate to eat after lunch? In Switzerland, that's pretty much a national habit. The Swiss eat close to 26 pounds of chocolate per year. At the core of every chocolate is cocoa, and it comes in different forms. Cocoa mass is the base. It's what gives chocolate its rich dark color and intense flavor. Cocoa butter, the fat extracted from cocoa beans, adds creaminess and that melt-in-your-mouth texture. Then there's cocoa powder made by pressing cocoa mass to remove the fat. Now here's the surprising part. Even though cocoa is the key ingredient, it's not always the main one in most chocolate bars. There's sugar, milk, nuts, dried fruit. Some brands even go salty. Yep, salty chocolate is a thing now. And it gets worse. To cut costs, some companies replace cocoa butter with cheap vegetable oils like palm oil. That not only affects the taste and texture but also takes away that unique chocolate aroma. Some bars barely have any cocoa at all, masking it with artificial ingredients. And while that's not illegal, the more oils added, the less it qualifies as real chocolate. At a certain point, it becomes something entirely different. That's right, there are legal minimums of cocoa content for a product to even be called chocolate. Ever seen something labeled chocolate flavored or chocolate style? Now you know why. And let's be real, chocolate quality seems to be going downhill lately. Some bars taste more like oil than chocolate. The key takeaway here is, not all chocolate is created equal. What really determines how healthy it is comes down to the ingredients and nutrients in it. So let's break it down, starting with milk chocolate, which, full disclosure, is my favorite. Milk chocolate contains between 25% and 40% cocoa. Beyond that, it starts being classified as dark chocolate. That means at least 60% of milk chocolate is made of other ingredients. And ironically, it's not milk, it's sugar. Sugar is usually the very first ingredient on the label. We all know eating tons of chocolate isn't healthy, and the less sugar the better. But that doesn't mean you can't enjoy it in moderation. A 25-gram serving, about 4 squares of milk chocolate, has around 14 grams of sugar. If you're not loading up on other sweets throughout the day, that fits within the recommended daily sugar limit of 50 grams. Next on the list is powdered milk, which makes it creamy and helps preserve it. Milk chocolate usually has more of this than the darker varieties. Then comes cocoa mass and cocoa butter. Not bad, and definitely better than bars full of vegetable oils. Higher cocoa content usually means better nutritional quality and taste. A lot of people blame sugar for being the biggest villain in chocolate. But check this out, 25 grams of milk chocolate has 8 grams of total fat, with 4.7 grams of that being saturated fat. That's already 21% of your daily saturated fat limit, and adds up to 134 calories. If you go overboard or don't balance the rest of your diet, that's when it becomes a problem. Good news though, you can find better milk chocolate options like sugar-free versions or those that use only cocoa butter without other oils. There are even versions made with plant-based milk for dairy-free folks. Just be careful. Some sugar-free bars add more fat or artificial additives to compensate for the flavor. Now what about dark chocolate? Dark chocolate starts at 40% cocoa and becomes truly dark at 70% or higher. Above that level, cocoa becomes the dominant ingredient, not sugar. You can even find 100% cocoa bars, basically just pure cocoa with nothing else. Personally, not my favorite. Let me know if you've tried one or used it in a recipe. But don't be fooled, not all dark chocolate is the same. Just because it says dark doesn't mean it's low in sugar. Many still have sugar as the second ingredient. A typical dark chocolate bar includes cocoa mass, sugar, crispy cocoa bits, which might have even more sugar, salt, emulsifiers, cocoa butter, milk fat, and flavorings. The good news is, cocoa mass usually comes first. In one 25-gram serving of 70% chocolate, you'll find around 7.2 grams of sugar, half as much as milk chocolate. But here's the catch. Cocoa naturally contains a lot of fat. A 70% bar has around 10 grams of total fat and 6.2 grams of saturated fat. 141 calories total. That's even more than milk chocolate. So if your goal is weight loss, switching to dark chocolate might not actually help. Still, more cocoa means a more intense flavor and better preservation of nutrients like iron and fiber. Less sugar, more antioxidants, but also more fat, particularly saturated fat, which in excess is linked to heart problems. Take a 100% cocoa bar, for example. 13.4 grams of fat in 25 grams, with 8.1 grams being saturated. That's 41% of your daily saturated fat intake. So don't just follow online trends. Going for the super dark chocolate isn't always smarter. If dark chocolate doesn't sweeten your day, then what about white chocolate? White chocolate is kind of its own thing. Technically, it's chocolate as long as it contains at least 20% cocoa butter. But since it doesn't have cocoa mass or powder, it lacks the deep flavor of traditional chocolate. Instead, you get a sweet, creamy, milky taste. So, is it still chocolate? Yes, legally. But because it lacks the flavorful parts of the cocoa bean, manufacturers have to balance it out carefully, or else it just tastes like sugar and fat. And guess what? That's exactly what most white chocolate is. Looking at the label, sugar is the #1 ingredient. A 25-gram serving has about 15 grams of sugar. Then comes cocoa butter and milk powder. But surprise, surprise, there's usually some cheap vegetable fat in there too. Add some malt extract, a natural sweetener, and boom, you've got a super sweet high-calorie treat with 0 fiber. Total calories? Around 135 per serving. Of the 3 types, white chocolate often has the most sugar and the fewest nutrients. So, now the big question, does it really matter which chocolate you eat? Let's wrap up this battle with a final comparison. First, cocoa content. Milk chocolate starts strong with more cocoa than white chocolate, but dark chocolate wins by far. More cocoa means better flavor, more antioxidants, more fiber, more minerals. Second, sugar content. Dark chocolate wins again, less sugar overall, but even 70% bars still have a lot. So if you're really cutting sugar, go for 0 sugar chocolate or skip it entirely. Third, fat levels. Bad news here? All chocolate is high in fat, especially saturated fat. Even dark chocolate. In our examples, white chocolate actually had the lowest fat content, just slightly below milk chocolate. So milk and white get the point here. But the difference is small and the fat is still high. And since fat brings calories, all 3 types end up pretty similar in total calories. If you think dark chocolate is low-cal because it's healthier, think again. And remember, unless it's artisanal, most chocolate is ultra-processed with added sugars, oils, sweeteners, and emulsifiers. Not exactly a daily health food. So, yes, dark chocolate came out on top today, but it's a win that doesn't mean much if your overall diet isn't balanced. If you love chocolate, the most important takeaway is this. It's okay to enjoy a little chocolate, as long as the rest of your diet is balanced. The real question is, are you eating chocolate because you love it, or are you using it to cope with stress or emotions? The real problem isn't the chocolate bar, it's the imbalance in your routine. And if you've been trying to eat better but nothing seems to work, it's not your fault. There's so much bad advice out there, jumping from diet to diet with no results. That's exactly why I started this channel, to fight misinformation and help you build a healthy lifestyle that actually works. If you want to learn more about health, nutrition, and wellness in a real science-based way, with simple language and no guilt, subscribe to the channel and hit that notification bell so you don't miss a thing. And remember, if you feel like having a little chocolate once in a while, it's not the end of the world. Like I always say, it's all about balance.